Our first discussion forum deadline has now passed. If you aren't sure how your questions stacked up against the assignment criteria, be sure to look at the grading rubric once those scores are posted so that you can see where improvements might be made. I will make comments specific to each portion of the assignment where you may need to make adjustments. For example, if your discussion questions, which are abbreviated as DQs throughout the course content, are great, you may not see commentary for those individual posts, but you may see commentary under one or more of your discussion responses, aka DRs, or your follow-up responses, the FRs you will see listed from here on out, if they have not risen to the appropriate level of engagement and reflection. Please make a habit of checking the feedback so that you can earn as many points as possible by the end of this term. In addition to my personalized comments to you on your posts, I encourage everyone to look over the other questions, the prompts I write to your peers, and the various responses in the forums each week to keep track of what has been part of the class conversation. There will be essay questions on the exams that will re-examine some of the more prevalent themes from each module, so it is a good idea to see what the most common questions in the forums are. Additionally, the foundational elements of theater, as described in the first module, will serve to ground us for the remainder of the term. So if you're not caught up with this week's content, be sure to make up for that in the coming days. If you still haven't replied to my FR prompts or to the 2 required DRs, please do so soon. Even though the deadline has passed, points will still be awarded up to 3 days after the deadline, according to the late policy in the syllabus. As a general education course, this assignment and many in the class are meant to gauge your understanding of theater while also assessing your ability to write at the college level, and they will build upon each other in the hopes that you will be able to improve as the semester goes on. Even though I will address you each specifically on the grading of the discussion forum assignment, I'd like to elaborate right now on the general format of that assignment, as it will constitute nearly a quarter of your overall grade in this class by the end of the term. Your 2 DRs are the largest portion of the grade in each week's discussion forum, 20 of 30 possible points. Be sure to follow the standards laid out in the assignment sheet for these posts. If you chose a peer's DQ that didn't allow much room for interpretation and explanation of your reactions to the readings, then in the future you should seek out DQs that allow you to expand on your thinking as related to the course content, not simply the ones that allow you to write a brief couple sentences. Simply replying to 2 DQs does not merit full consideration of points unless those responses show meaningful engagement with the course content. If the peer's DQ you chose has a format like that of one of the professor's DQs, then chances are good you will have enough room for interpretation as you write a strong response. It is also important that you put your best effort into only 2 DRs. If you respond to more than one peer DQ or more than one of the professor's DQs, only your best responses will be scored. You will not earn cumulative partial points to add up to 10 for posting short responses in multiple threads. If one or both of your DQ scores didn't earn 2 points this week, look at my questions as examples of how your future DQs could be written. Note that there is often some context setting within each DQ, and they may have more than one actual question embedded within them. That doesn't mean that only one portion should be considered, but that the totality of the post makes for a strong discussion starter. If the DQs you write only ask the respondents to answer with a yes or no, or just ask for lists of items or a particular detail or definitions from the reading, without also having the peers think about what those details or definitions mean, then you should consider fleshing out your future DQs with more context and questioning before you submit them. Open-ended questions and interpretive ones are the best kind to write for this assignment. If you would not be able to write a couple paragraphs in response to the question you posed, then it is likely in need of more content. Also, be sure that you specifically name the text or idea that is at the heart of your questions. Don't assume, for example, that the reader knows right away which play you may be referencing, as some modules will have us reading or viewing more than one play. Whether or not a peer responds to your DQs, I will always include a follow-up prompt for each week for every DQ that you post, as you have now seen for Module 1. If you post only once, then you will only have one prompt from me. Remember to go back and respond to these prompts with your FRs, each of which is worth up to 3 points. Since they are not worth as many points as the DRs, the FRs are not required to have as much depth as the first kind, but you should still strive to answer all aspects of the prompts that I have provided you. The last bit of instruction regarding the discussion forum assignment has to do with formatting within the forum itself. Because there is a choice between which questions a student may wish to write responses for, each of your DQs needs to be its own separate thread. If you posted both of your questions as one reply to the forum last week, then I have separated them out into 2 threads. Going forward, this responsibility is on you, however. Each DQ post should begin with you clicking the main reply button at the head of each week's forum, for example, Module 2 discussion. You do not need to post both questions at the same time each week. So if you finish your play reading and want to post that discussion question immediately, and then finish the koan reading and come back to your second question later, that is totally acceptable. Each forum needs to have 2 separate threads with your name as the author. Then you will have the prompts from me that correspond to each question individually in its correct thread, along with any peer responses that may be related to one of your 2 DQs. You should not reply under your first question post with your second question as a reply to that thread. Be sure you are beginning a new thread each and every time. This will also help you to see the feedback as it relates to each question and follow-up, respectively. So, now that you have this information, I hope you will be able to engage in future forums in a way that not only benefits the class conversation, but also your final grade.